It's not. Thank you for coming, everybody. Please hang in there. We will start momentarily. Thank you so much for coming. We will be right with you. Thank you so much for your patience. We will begin momentarily. Thank you so much for coming. Yes. Beautiful. I hope you guys all had a wonderful day. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your amazing lives to be with us here today. And if you just hold on, we will be beginning momentarily. I thank you so much. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for your patience. We will begin momentarily. It's almost 5:30. Thank you so much for coming to our presentation. It's going to be a lot of fun. You're going to learn a lot. We have a very dynamic speaker today. So thank you for your patience. We're going to start momentarily. And good evening. It's such a beautiful day here in Northern California, and it's Wednesday. And the other day I was riding down 680, and I actually saw a camel on the side of 680, just to emphasize that Wednesday is Hump Day. So here's your camera, your camel girl. So wonderful living in the Bay Area. You have all kinds of animal life. And it's getting to be close to 5:30. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are so honored that you took time out of your busy lives to be with us today. We're going to give you the best that we have, and we will be sharing this information with you. So there's going to be a lot coming at you, but just chill, take off your shoes, relax, because we got you on this. Absolutely.
Oh, Veronica.
So thank you for attending this evening's webinar. My name is Veronica Dangerfield, and I am the Senior Financial Health Expert here at Patelco. The reason that I was put on this planet is to teach about money, to preach about love and compassion, and I gave up a comedy career to work in money. So I try to make people laugh because I think I am hilarious. So again, thank you for coming. Keeping with Patelco's mission of focusing on your financial health at every stage of your life, we are so honored to have you at this evening's webinar, Medicare 101. So now we have some housekeeping, you guys. If you're like me, your memory is a memory. So I want you to know that we're recording this session. So please relax. A link to the recording will be delivered to your email tomorrow. And guess what? Joanne has also graciously offered to share her deck. So all the information that you get, you will have it at your convenience. Please ask questions in the Q&A section of Zoom. We prefer the Q&A to the chat. You will get access to all the information that we're talking about today. We will be giving you phone numbers. We will be giving you websites so that you know that regardless of how fast this goes, you will be okay. Since Patelco cannot answer your Medicare questions, we brought in the big gun. So, and you guys, you may feel like this information feels like water coming from a water hose, but not to worry, we got you. This is an intricate and complicated topic, but if you have questions, they probably will be answered in the webinar. However, if your questions cannot be answered today, you will have the opportunity to speak with a dynamic group of professionals that know their business and will be able to support you later. So as my ex-husband used to say to my children, tranquilo, tranquilo. And if you have questions about your Patelco account, tonight, just for you, we are having our virtual bank. Now, what is a virtual bank? A virtual bank is a bank you can attend in the comfort of your home with or without pants on a Zoom meeting, okay? So we will have that open after the webinar. So with me as a panelist today is the beautiful Carolyn Wilson. We can flip it to the next slide. Carolyn is our Director of Investment and Insurances. She has been in the industry for over 30 years, and she works with our financial advisors at Patelco Financial Solutions. The beautiful Carolyn will be here helping with the Q&A towards the end of the session, and she will also be introducing our virtual branch. Carolyn and I are delighted to co-host this seminar tonight. So let me introduce you to the amazing Joanne. I mean, this woman is a phenomenal. She's a maverick, she's a teacher, she's an entrepreneur, she's an outstanding businesswoman. But what I'm so impressed with is that not only did she create her business, Giardini's Medicare, she raised children. And then she made them work for her to get a better return on her ROI. I wish I could work with my children, but she's amazing that way. So everyone, please welcome the amazing Joanne. Joanne,
Oh my gosh.
You do it, girl.
You are so funny. This is actually super fun. And I'm all revved up because I had a webinar a few hours ago. So I think I'm all prepped and I'm impressed. 588 people on here. You girls rock. Like, wow. I mean, that's seriously impressive. So I'm going to get right to it. Just like Veronica said, unfortunately, it's like a fire hose coming at you. I am going to go off camera because a lot of people just want to look at what my hair is doing, that kind of stuff. So we're going to kind of get away from doing that. Thanks for tuning in. This is fabulous. As Veronica said, I have my own agency. I did make my kids work for me, which is not true, but it's a great story. But I do work with the kids and it's really a lot of fun. We have a family business. called Giardini Medicare. We're here in Michigan. There's no camels running down my street. We had a rainy, ugly day. It's about 50 degrees here. It's East Coast time. So this is like pushing my bedtime. So you guys are all looking at sunshine and I'm not, but we're here to talk about Medicare. So I do, like I said, have a lot coming at you. Please do save your questions for the end. Q&A, you can just put them in. Carolyn will kind of watch those at the end. I don't focus on the questions as they're coming in. A lot of the stuff will probably be answered. If it's not, just kind of pause. They told you you'll have the PowerPoint, you'll have the recording, you'll have our email address. I answer questions all the time for people. That's a great way just to reach out to us for just miscellaneous questions. Okay. Some of this is not going to be pertinent to just California. Some of it's going to be, or actually most of it's just going to be Medicare. Okay. So if you have really in the weeds questions, they might have to say, hey, go back to a Kaiser, go back to so-and-so to check on that, because we can't know every plan in the country. It's impossible just to know even everything with Medicare, but we do a good job with just the Medicare. So I'm going to take you right through the 101. I do always want to clarify that we have an insurance agency. So a lot of people ask, how do we get paid? And I'd like to be upfront about this. We are an insurance agency. So we are paid by insurance carriers, the ones that we represent. We represent all the large carriers. We work in a lot of states, but that's how we make our money. So we do not work for the government. A lot of people think I work for Social Security or Medicare. So you're going to hear me talk about those things a lot, but I don't work for them. Okay. So I can't magically pull a lever and make your part be activated. I can't sign in for your password. I had someone today ask me if I could log in and pay her credit card, but with her credit card, pay her bill for Medicare. I can't do those things. So there's a lot we can do, but that's something we can't do. And I always like to clarify too that, Patelco invited us in to talk Medicare, but they don't pay us to be here. We don't pay them to be in front of you too. So we just isolate ourselves to the Medicare space. Pretty passionate about just teaching Medicare because I think it's a kind of a space that's just a big mess. All right. And if anyone out there, and I'm sure a lot of you are on Medicare or turning 65 and approaching that time, you know what I mean. It's a lot of chaos. And here's an example of chaos. And this is funny because at this time of my life, my husband's turning 65. So he is turning 65 next month. So this has been my mailbox, just like a lot of you out there. So I've got to see it firsthand, and it's been fascinating just to see what comes in, what plans are on the piece of paper. Look at all the zero premium, look at all these things. Everything sounds really, really wonderful. And it can be, or you have to just be careful because there's no free lunch with Medicare, just like anything else. Okay. So be careful. A lot of this confusion is designed to just do that, just to confuse you. Because if you kind of throw up your hands as, last resort, just say, forget it, I'll just take anything. That's what some carrier is waiting for and some agent is waiting for. So you got to be careful. It's a tricky kind of business. I get asked all the time this question, can you learn Medicare yourself? And I will tell you that you can in many, many ways. Years ago, I self-learned, if you will, Medicare by devouring the Medicare and You handbook, the websites I've seen out there, YouTube. YouTube is a great place to get a lot of your information. We have a YouTube channel. We have competitors that are fabulous that we adore, but they have YouTube channels that are really, really good. So can you go to Medicare.gov and learn Medicare? Kind of. However, this site is really good for me. Just before this webinar started, I was working on somebody's plan and I went into Medicare.gov because I know what I'm looking for, right? So it's a tool for us, but it's not really a good way for you all to learn. I think the best way to learn is to check in, come into webinars like this, go to YouTube, make your questions, get a whole list of questions going, and then find a competent Medicare agent and ask all those questions. And if you need to, ask 2 or 3 or 4 agents. Take your time through the process, okay? Because it really is a big deal. Now, I like to show this slide because of poor information. So this is what makes Medicare so difficult, in my opinion. So this article came out a few years ago. Costco magazine, everybody knows Costco, right? And we all get this magazine. I usually just throw it in the garbage can, but I read it this time because someone told me it was about retirement. So I did read it. And if you look at this, it says number 2 most important thing in your retirement is get the Medicare thing right. I totally agree with that. I couldn't agree more. However, what the box on the upper right shows is misinformation. It says first that you need to enroll in Medicare when you're first eligible. In fact, if you postpone it, it will result in a Part B late enrollment penalty. That's not true. Okay. So it's just flat out not true. I actually emailed the editor of the magazine and he said, oh my gosh, we fact check it with Medicare.gov, which they couldn't have, or they wouldn't have gotten that information. But he said, can you just write me a bullet as to when people need to sign up for Medicare? And I said, no, I can write an article, but not a bullet. Okay. Because you can't just put when to sign up for Medicare in a little box. If you did, you wouldn't need anybody like us, right? It wouldn't be confusing. So it's just wrong information. And then what happens is, the average person will read that and then they'll talk to their friend 3 days later and they talk about Medicare and they say, oh my gosh, I read the same thing. And they all run off and go get Part B and they didn't need to get that. So again, it's just really frustrating to us because there's just a lot of bad information out there. So you got to be super careful. And I know it's hard to decipher what's true and what's not true. So what we do and where we've kind of grown our agency is in people transitioning to the Medicare system. So what this means typically is somebody that is turning 65 or they are 68 years old and they're retiring and now they need to go get Part B of Medicare. So they have to figure out how to do that, right? It's not as easy when someone just tells you go get Part B. What do you really do, right? Where do you go? Who do you call? Do you go into an office? Do you go online? What do you do, right? It's kind of baffling. So we walk people through this process. So you're going to see and you're going to hear a lot of how to get there, what it's going to cost, all the things that we go through with our clients. Okay. But it is, again, that transition. I will tell you right now where we're not strong and where we're not good, and everybody's different in Medicare. We're not good with, hey, my mother's 88 and she has this horrible plan and she's, skilled nursing facility is causing problems. We can't fix those problems. Okay. So very, very challenging and difficult. We would prefer just to get things right in the beginning. So as you're getting there, we want to get you there without headaches. We want to get you there in the best way without mistakes. So where we spend our time is doing this kind of thing. Every day we're talking to people about what Medicare is, and we're going to get through all these slides, what Medicare is. How do you decipher if you need it? That is huge. Not everybody needs Medicare at age 65. Some do, some don't. Okay. Some should get it. Some should not get it. But how do you figure that out? If you do need it, how do you go get it? Like I said, where do you go? What do you do? How much is it going to cost you? Nobody comes to our gate with knowing how much it costs. Rarely does anyone know exactly how much Medicare is going to cost them. What's it going to cover? Right? And that's huge. What kind of things going forward are covered under Medicare? How do you put all those things together? You hear about B and C and D and all those things. What do you need? What do you have to do? How do you put it together? And then we explain to people what reality really looks like, right? What ID card do you use when you go to the doctors? How do the bills get paid? How, are you going to see a bill? All that kind of stuff. So that's kind of the new reality of your Medicare days. And then at the end of the day, for us, we just want you to go relax, right? Have a nice retirement. So again, we're working with you during this process, but we want to get to the point where you understood what you bought and why you bought it. So whatever you're doing with Medicare, always know those things. Know why you enrolled, know what you bought, know exactly how your product works, how much it costs you, and then the downsides, if there are any downsides to your plan. Okay. And then after that, put it out of your head, check in every year. At the end, I'll give you some tips to, it's the annual election time around the corner. So you want to be careful there, but you don't want to drive yourself crazy with this stuff. Takeaways today, if you can just understand a couple things, I will be very excited if you understand the differences between Medicare Advantage and Medigap insurance policies. I do want you to really understand number two. The point number two is super important. Pre-existing conditions do come into play with Medicare. All right. So that's super important. A lot of people don't understand that. We all think of Obamacare and ACA protections and things like that. But when you get to Medicare, things change. Okay. So we hear a lot of this like, well, wait, I didn't think they could do that. Well, they can. Okay. So Medicare is a whole different market than ACA and under 65 coverage. There are issues on the number 3 point here. There are issues with Cobra and Medicare. There's a lot of issues. So when somebody is on Cobra and they are turning 65 after that, they need to go get Medicare Part A and Part B set up immediately. Okay. If they don't, they can have claims issues, and it happens fairly frequently. And I'll touch on this in a little bit. But I just understand too, that the whole thing is a process. Do not think you can come in here for 1 hour and completely understand Medicare. Unfortunately, we do hear people a lot of times will say, I'm 65, I'm 67, I'm 68, whatever you are. I know you don't want to learn this. I really know you don't want to learn everything there is to know about Medicare, but you just got to know a little bit enough to protect yourself. Okay. So it is important, but take it slowly. Okay. One step in front of the other. So again, we start with people. What is Medicare? At the end of the day, I like to just kind of say it's just insurance. It's just health insurance. It's just like Blue Cross. It's like Anthem. It's like United Healthcare. It's just health insurance. But because it's provided by the federal government, that really kind of makes people nervous, right? They think it's extra confusing and it's not. It is just health insurance. Okay. It's not designed to pay 100% of your healthcare costs, just like your work insurance or just like anything you're buying currently, right? It's not designed for 100% because you have copays and things like that and premiums to pay. It's not designed to be used overseas in terms of, take your plan and go, for 8 months over to Spain and live there. It's not designed for that. Okay. It will cover you overseas, things like that, but it's designed to be, used in the United States. And who's eligible for Medicare? Well, tonight we're going to stick mainly to those that are 65 and older. However, people on disability for 2 years after they're collecting Social Security disability income checks for 2 years are given and awarded Medicare. Okay. So I have a 27-year-old client who is on Medicare because of disability. Then there's 2 medical conditions, end-stage renal disease and ALS. And those are 2 conditions that after a short period of time, they are fast-tracked to the Medicare system just for quicker treatment. Okay. But again, tonight we're going to stick to kind of mainstream, unfortunately, because we just don't have enough time. We'd be here for 4 hours, but 65 and older, those people that are kind of coming into the system for the first time by way of turning 65 or retirement. Okay. Medicare Part A. So Part A, there's 2 parts to Medicare. And when I talk about Medicare, I'm talking about original Medicare. So Part A is hospital coverage, and this is considered room and board covering, only it's going to kick in when you're in the hospital. So if you're hospitalized overnight, you will have some Part A coverage if you're enrolled in Part A. It's also going to cover skilled nursing, which is not nursing homes. Okay. That is a skilled nursing facility, such as if you had a knee replacement and you had to go rehab someplace else. It's going to cover that type of a setting. It will cover hospice, and then some home health care is billed under Part A as well. There is a deductible, and you can see it's $1,484. I don't get too caught up with these deductibles and these co-insurance numbers just because as insurance agents, we are coming in with you afterwards to solve the problem of having to pay those co-insurances and deductibles. Okay. So they're really not going to come into play in your world unless you only have original Medicare. If you only have original Medicare, meaning Part A and Part B only, that's the only thing you have at all, then please get to an insurance agent and solve that, because then again, you've got a big open hole in that Medicare covers 80%, not 100%. So you have a hole of 20%. Medicare, I want to point out here the long-term care angle. This is super important. This is when I need you to go back to someone like Carolyn and talk about long-term care, because long-term care is not covered by Medicare. And so many people think it is. So many people will call, and my mom's 88 and she fell and she needs a wheelchair ramp. Medicare won't pay for it, and they will not. They will not. So it is health insurance for your body. It is not long-term care insurance. You need to talk to your advisor about long-term care. Not suggesting even long-term care insurance. I'm just suggesting you find a way with your advisor to talk about how you're going to pay for that should it occur in your world. Okay. Because it happens a lot more frequently than people think. Now, Part B is the other part that rounds out original Medicare. Part B comes with the premium. So this is the part that you really can think of. It's just like your Anthem or Blue Cross, things like that, because it has a premium. So this is when you're starting to actively pay the government for that health insurance, if you choose to do so, or you need to do so. Okay. Now, Part B is going to cover everything else. It's going to cover the doctor visits, your CAT scans, your x-rays, your wheelchairs, some infusions, a whole bunch of things. So Medicare Part B covers just a vast amount of things, but that's what you're paying premium for. Okay. And as I mentioned earlier, so between Part A and Part B of Medicare, you are responsible for 20%. They will be paying 80%. So again, you pay a premium to the government, they pay 80% of your health insurance, you're responsible for 20%. And just remember that if you have nothing else, that 20% can be a big number. A client that came to us a few years ago, she had a knee replacement and she had just A and B of Medicare, and she had a rather simple knee replacement, and she had a bill for $12,000. So be very careful there. Okay. And that was just a knee replacement. If you have a cancer situation, it's going to be really, really expensive. Okay, so we always like to just point out things that original Medicare is not going to cover, and we just kind of throw it out there like it's not going to cover dental. And this is original Medicare. Again, this is Part A and Part B. No dental coverage. Okay, I know implants are expensive. I know crowns and root canals are expensive. That is the most complained about piece of Medicare ever in the history of Medicare. People are getting older, their teeth are getting older, and Medicare doesn't cover dental. Okay. It does not cover vision exams either. And when I say vision exams, I am not talking about glaucoma. I'm not talking about cataracts. I'm talking about just an eye exam at Costco, something like that, and eyeglasses. So Medicare will not cover those things. They will also not cover hearing aids. Okay. So hearing aids can be very pricey. I talked to somebody recently, $5,600 for hearing aids. So just know that it's not going to be covered. Rarely will those types of things be covered, like hearing aids. Gym memberships, not covered. Okay. A lot of people look for gym memberships. You can get those often with an Advantage plan or with your Medigap plan. The carriers will often offer those, but you're not going to get it with original Medicare, and you're not going to get prescription drug coverage with original Medicare either. So there are ways to solve to get all of these things that you're seeing here by way of maybe an Advantage plan or an independent policy, things like that, but it's not going to be covered within original Medicare. So where people go for advice, this is just something we always need to point out and should point out, because these sources of advice are typically not good for you. Okay. Number one is your friends. I just got an email about an hour ago from one of my clients we're looking at her drug plans for next year. And she said, well, what do you know anything about SilverScript? Because my neighbor has it and said it's really good. That's as far as she went. So because her neighbor has something, she thinks that particular drug plan might work for her, though she takes different meds, right? And she probably goes to different pharmacies. So you have to be really careful what your friends are telling you, and what they think is best for them is certainly not usually best for you. And so we hear this all the time, that your friends are talking about this on Friday night over cocktails. They're talking about Medicare plans. And I will tell you, they're all trying to one up each other. They're all saying they get everything for free. Most of them are not telling the truth. And so you have to be really careful with what you're hearing from your friends. Social Security Administration. Okay. Now they're not a good place for Medicare advice because they're not Medicare. And this is a really kind of a dumb system, but you have to go to Social Security to apply for Medicare. So people think it's one and the same, and it's not. I had somebody recently tell me that she was upset with Social Security because when she was calling to get everything set up, they did not tell her she needed to buy a drug plan. She was on a webinar like this, and I mentioned about having to buy a drug plan, and she had no idea. And she's called Social Security. They didn't tell her that. Well, it's not their job. They don't care if you buy a drug plan or not. So I will tell you at the end of this that you need to buy a drug plan. If you're eligible for Medicare, you're going to have to get a drug plan. If not, you're going to be penalized. And she didn't know that because she was asking Social Security. So be careful about that too. Now, also be careful about your doctors. Your doctors don't know Medicare. Okay. Doctors know doctoring and they don't know Medicare. We have tons of clients that are doctors and they don't know the first thing about Medicare. So don't ask them what plan you should be on. And then oftentimes, whether it's a credit union, CPA, financial advisor, HR, those folks, they have way too many things on their plate to be full-time Medicare people. And I'm an advocate, obviously, with what I do, but I'm an advocate for somebody knowing what they do, meaning their specialty. I wouldn't, expect Carolyn to understand all the intricacies of Medicare, and she doesn't want to. She doesn't have 10 hours a day to spend doing that. So be very careful with all of those places. So what we do is, this is us, talking to our clients daily. I sit on the phone many, many days and talk about this. So when a call is coming in, and here's just a good example of, hey, I'm turning 65 in January. We're starting to work out to January, February, March birthdays now. We have to start asking them all the questions. All I know at this point is they're a January birthday. So we start with, well, what are you doing? What's going on? Are you working? Are you not working? So when they tell us the story, we are, reading between the lines of everything going on, but we know the situations to look for. This is just like 5 of a sampling of questions, but we're looking for things like, are you eligible for retiree coverage? Okay. So if you are a state, school teacher and insured by the state, many states like Michigan has a very, very strong retiree program for teachers. So when a teacher might call us, all we can tell them is that you really don't need us. You need to go call ORS because they have a great program waiting for you. We don't administer it. So we always have to do that to some degree. But not everybody, and the way the world is going, more people than not do not have retiree coverage as an access to them. So if they don't have access to retiree coverage, then we may be able to help them. If you're actively employed, let's say you're working for a large company and you're 65 years old and you want to stay working, you really like your coverage, and there's no reason. Let's say the employer even pays for that coverage for you and your spouse is on it and your spouse is 63 years old. You do not have to go to Medicare. Okay. The government will not make you go pay for Part B coverage when you're actively employed. They're not going to make you do that. Don't be concerned about the penalty. And I'll talk about that in a little bit, but you will not be penalized. Okay. So unfortunately, that Costco magazine, when you read that, you would think you have to go sign up at 65, and you might do that. And it's wrong to do that. Okay. But you're not going to get penalized. You can certainly stay with your group insurance for as long as you like that. Now, when you become not actively employed, that's a different story. That's when you need to leave it and you go to Medicare in that case. Now, if you're working for a small employer, let's say it's a CPA firm, there's 6 people. Well, the law is with Medicare, under 20 people, you have to go get Medicare. You just have to go get it. So A and B, you have to go sign up for Medicare. Medicare in the small employer space is considered primary to the small employer coverage. That just means that Medicare is your primary insurance. You better have your primary insurance in place, or you're going to have a big hole in coverage. All right. So be careful with that. Go back to the group administrator for those small businesses and ask them, am I required to get Part A and Part B? Very, very infrequently will we have somebody, the plan, I would say the plan agrees to be primary. It doesn't happen very often, but once in 100 times, you might see it happen. So always start with the employer, the group insurance person for the employer. Now, if you have marketplace, ACA coverage, a lot of people out there have that. A lot of people this year have massive credits with ACA in the marketplace. Now, if you have that and you're highly subsidized and you love your coverage and you're paying only $122 a month for that coverage and you don't want to go to Medicare, too bad. You have to go to Medicare. Okay. So when you're 65, you just get off that marketplace plan. Do not think you can push it and keep those credits, and no one's going to know about that because you will get caught on your tax returns and all those subsidies will be taken back from you. Okay. So just get off at the marketplace, ACA coverage, and you go right to Medicare. Now, Cobra, I kind of touched on Cobra before. Cobra is just very messy because of this year. Also, there's a lot of free Cobra coverage. There's been subsidized. People that are losing their jobs this year have gotten 6 months of free Cobra, which is great, which is fine. However, if you then turn 65 or you are 65 and then take that free Cobra, you absolutely have to have your Medicare Part A and Part B activated. Because just like the small employer space with Cobra, Medicare Part A and Part B are primary. So here's what happens. And I did a webinar a couple months ago where a guy was listening and he was chatting in there and writing in there. And he said, hey, this just happened to me. Oh my gosh. What happened to him was HR told him that, hey, don't worry about it. This is the same insurance you had when you were leaving the workplace, because that's what Cobra is. Remember, it's when you leave your insurance at work, they're giving you Cobra benefits for 18 months. So he did that. HR just said, oh, it's just, it's the same coverage you had. Don't worry about it. You don't need to go get Medicare. He was 66 years old. He did need to go get Medicare. So then he fell, he had emergency surgery, and he got a bill for $15,000. The reason is when the carrier gets a big claim, they will go and they will investigate. And when they investigate, they realize that he was 66 years old and he was entitled to Medicare. And the fact that he was entitled to Medicare and he did not have it in place was just enough for them to say, well, we shouldn't have paid and Medicare should have, and you didn't have Medicare and nobody really cares about that. And they stuck him with the bill for 15 grand. Okay. So just remember, at the end of the day, I don't care what HR tells you. You have to be very careful. HR is not there when that $15,000 bill comes in. All right. So just be very, very careful with that. So again, this is just a sampling of questions. There are more. We ask about, are you collecting Social Security? If you are collecting Social Security, people are going to be automatically enrolled at age 65 into Medicare. Doesn't mean you need to keep Part B, but you do need to keep Part A. Okay. So we're asking those questions. Are you contributing to an HSA? Things like that. And I'll just tell you right now, with an HSA, you do not want to enroll in. If you want to contribute and continue contributing to the health savings account, do not enroll in Part A nor Part B of Medicare. Okay. So be careful with that too. Lots of things. So anyway, recapping some things, and I just want to make it really clear that here's some situations where you always want to add Part A and Part B together. Have them. Marketplace. Absolutely. Just go get A and B, be done with it. Cobra. Absolutely. Get your A and B, be done with it. Domestic partner. Always at age 65. If you're on your domestic partner's insurance, get your Medicare Part A and Part B. Under 20 employees, almost always, 99.999% of the time. Okay. Go get your A and B. The same with end stage renal. It's a whole different can of worms there. I'm not going to get into that, but just about 99.999, percent, again, go get your Part A and B activated. So when we go through this whole process with a person, let's say they do need Medicare. So then we start talking about the cost. And it's just super interesting because I always ask, hey, has anyone explained to you how much Medicare is going to cost? The answer is usually no, never, no, rarely. I can't even think of one person that knew anything to do with this chart. So we get the chart out, we show them, we do a screen share, here we go. But this is how Medicare figures out what your premium is. All right. So if you are filing for Medicare next month, in the year of 2021, Medicare is looking back at your 2019 federal tax return. They're going to look to see if you filed jointly, filed individually. They're going to look at what your income falls, what bracket you fall into, and you're going to be assessed the premium on the right-hand side according to what your income return, what your income tax return was. It's based on modified adjusted gross. Okay. Those numbers on the right-hand side are per person per month. Okay. So some people are very surprised when they see those top brackets. Again, it's modified adjusted gross. Now, when we're dealing with people, again, remember that we're typically dealing with retirees going into the Medicare system, right? So as we're talking to Mr. Smith, he tells us he's making $250,000 at work, but hey, I'm not working anymore. I'm leaving, I'm retiring, and I'm going to start living off of $150,000. Carolyn and I came up with this great plan. I'm going to live off 150 grand going forward. Great. That's fine. So we're going to coach Mr. Smith through how to go get a form. It's called an SS-44. He gets that form. He fills it out and he says, I had 250,000, but I'm going to live off of 150,000 going forward. And then he submits that to Social Security, and he'll go from the 297 on the right-hand side per person per month, and he'll reduce his income or his his Part B premium down to 148.50 per month. Okay. Happens all the time. So if you don't do that, and you don't have to, but it's proactive to do this and it's smart to do that, you've just saved a lot of money. But if you don't do that, every year that goes by, for example, in January of 2022, which isn't too far away for us, they're going to be looking at the 2020 tax returns. So you see, it just keeps notching over. So as Mr. Smith's income really fell from 250 to 150, he eventually would go down brackets. But in this case, you don't have to wait. Okay. So that's just something to know, that you can be proactive. You can file that SS-44 form. Okay. This is another additional hidden charge, if you will, surcharge, tax, whatever you want to call it, on Medicare. So this is again for higher income people. Same thing. You're going to look at his $250 bracket. He's going to pay an excess charge of $31.80 per month on the Part D, as in drugs side of things. This always confuses people. And it is kind of confusing because they get the statement that says monthly Part D premium. And they say, well, wait, I'm already buying a Part D plan separately than this. And they are. So this is not an extra drug plan they're enrolled in. This is just $31.80 in this case for Mr. Smith at $250,000, just because, okay, just because he has higher income. Okay. So I would really advocate working with your financial person, your CPA, and things like this when you're 63, even, and 64, et cetera, 65. As you're getting ready to retire, you can see how income flows are really important in the Medicare space. And people don't really pay attention to that until they get to Medicare. And sometimes it's too late. So think of things if you're selling a business, right? Or if you're purchasing annuities or whatever your income streams are going to be. Roth conversions. We hear that one a lot, that they did a Roth conversion 2 years ago and they had no idea it would affect their Medicare premiums. So just factor that in, not to say you shouldn't do those, but just factor those into your planning. Now, this slide is a newer slide for us. We found it. It's the 2020 Annual Board of Trustees for Medicare. And it's just an interesting stat, and not a good interesting, I should say, but the upper brackets, and all the brackets actually, are going to be inflated in terms of how much you're going to pay. So this one to me was surprising. So the top bracket, and I know it's over 750,000, so I know that's a big number, but in 2029, that number is going to really rifle up to $561.80. You can see it's on the bottom of that purple, that fatter box there. And what also is interesting on the number of beneficiaries affected today, there's 5.4 million people that have to pay this additional surcharge. Well, in 2029, which is not that far away in my mind either, 10.1 million people are going to be affected. So that just is telling us that they're going to be raising a lot of money by either compressing these brackets, reducing them. We don't know, right? It remains to be seen. But my point with this whole slide here is I just don't think people are really prepared for the amount of money it's going to cost for healthcare, right? In this case, the highest bracket, and again, it's a high bracket, but I don't think even that high bracket person is expecting to pay 24 grand a year for their health insurance. And that is for two people and a rather healthy couple when you factor everything in. I kind of just did a quick calculation, but it's about 25 grand a year. And again, I just don't think people are kind of prepared for that. So we get through the, the client conversation with, okay, yeah, I need Medicare. Now I know how much it costs. Let's move on to how do we get in it, right? How do you get to Medicare? So there's a couple different enrollment periods. I'm only going to talk about two of them. There's actually three, but these are the two important ones. So the initial enrollment window, and this is for the person that is turning, in January, they're turning 65. So they're calling and they're like, what do I do? Well, we have to go through the situations. Do you need Medicare first? And well, yes, I have ACA coverage. Okay, well, then you should enroll in Medicare. And if we're talking to you right now in September, October, we're just going to say, go do it now. You're in your 3 months before your birth month. So October, November, December. So an October 1st person, October 1st, the window would open for a January birthday person. So I would just say, if you need it, then okay, October 1st, 2nd, 3rd, whatever you want to do, put on your calendar, literally, and just go to online. You go to the Social Security Administration website. We send people templates on how to do this, but we just have them get enrolled. If you know you need Medicare at 65 years old, just do it as soon as you can, as soon as your window opens, because then you're giving the government ample time to process, right? You're not, hanging at the end like, oh my gosh, where's my card? I only applied 3 days ago. Don't put yourself through the trauma of that. Okay. So that's for people that need, they know they need Medicare at 65. Now, you can go all the way till 3 months after your birth month. If you get into those months later, you're going to have a delayed start date, which can be okay. Sometimes we actually use that for timing people if they're trying to retire around their 65th birth month. But just understand too, that if you do not need Medicare or want Medicare, like let's say somebody is contributing to a health savings account, and that's a really good situation or example of a time when somebody may not want any part of Medicare. So you've got somebody that is turning 65. They are not collecting Social Security. They are funding the maximum amount into their HSA, which is the health savings account. They love it. They want to keep putting money in there. They're healthy. They enjoy their work. They're staying there. That's fine. So you can do all those things. Then you want to bypass Medicare completely. Okay. But just understand that when you go through this 7-month period of time, you don't ever get it back again. And that's okay. But a lot of people think that when they're 70, they have to do something near their birth month. Okay. So I'm just trying to separate the two. This only happens one time. This initial enrollment window is the government just saying, hey, it's your first and your only chance to get Medicare at age 65 if you want it. That's it. Okay. That's how simple it is. If you don't want it, you don't have to get it necessarily. Okay. Now let's say they go through that and now this person is 67. Now they come to us and say, you know what? I'm ready to retire. Fine. When are you retiring? When is your insurance work at work ending? November 30th. It's going to end November 30th. Okay. We need to get your coverage in place 12/1. So we know on December 1st, we're going to help this person get his Part B activated with the government. So again, if you go back to that whole penalty situation, there is no penalty in this situation. He was an active worker. We helped this person fill out what we call an L564. It's a form. Again, it's a CMS form, which is Medicare. And this form actually goes to the employer. The employer signs off that Mr. Smith has had coverage for 2 years, since he turned 65 years old. That's why he didn't need Medicare. So then that form goes to Social Security. They stamp the rubber stamp on it. They give him his Medicare starting 12/1. We work with him to put his other plans in place that he might need, Medigap or Medicare Advantage. Okay. There's no penalty. There is no penalty there. That's how simple it is. Not many people just forget they didn't have coverage for 2 years. And if you do that, if you just go to sleep for 2 years and wake up 2 years later, now I need coverage. Yeah, there's a penalty situation there, but that just doesn't really happen. Okay. We see that probably a half dozen times a year, truly. And only 4% of the country is affected by that penalty situation. So again, when Costco kind of advertises, you got to go get your Medicare right away or you're going to get a penalty. Wrong. It's just wrong. Okay. So again, that's your special election window. Now here's an extra piece about HSAs again, the health savings account. If you bypass Part A, which is and B, which is totally fine when you're 65 and now you're turning 67 and you're going to retire, just understand that with Medicare and Social Security, what they do is they back backdate your Part A. So when you go, and this is a great example we had recently of a 67-year-old who filed for his Part B to be activated. And he filed that application, the top red box. He filed the application on May 28th. Okay. So what they do is they backdate it to November 20th of last year. That means that he should have stopped funding his HSA as of October 31st of last year, which he did in this case. He was all planned. He knew exactly what he was doing as we went through the steps with him. Okay. If you didn't know that, you have the opportunity to go back to your HSA administrator and ask for an excess contribution form, and you can fix that. Okay. So you would deal with them to do that. But just a little kind of side thing to know there. Okay. So now everything I've already gone through, which was a lot of stuff, again, doesn't relate to my actual job as an agent. Okay. That's all dealing with Social Security and Medicare and timing and teaching you, payments and, cost and things like that. This is where we turn into agents. So now that person, let's pretend Mr. Smith now has his A and B set up. We finally got through the hurdle of the government. He's got his Medicare card. He's got his numbers. He's got A and B starting December 1st. Okay. I have to sit with Mr. Jones, Mr. Smith, and talk about Medicare products now. So he has two choices. And what I love about actually this is, I know it doesn't feel simple to you, but it feels simple to me sometimes, but you only have two choices. Okay. So if you can just kind of dumb it down to two choices, one is original Medicare. So original Medicare, remember, is Part A and Part B. So with original Medicare, you keep that, you pay the government their portion, then you come to an agent like us and you buy a supplement, or we call it a Medigap plan. So you buy a supplement, the Medigap policy with a carrier, an insurance company. We sell you that supplement or Medigap plan from Blue Cross, United Healthcare, whomever the carrier is. You can go to any doctor that takes original Medicare in the country when you have the original Medicare set up plus the supplement, because original Medicare is paying 80% of your bill, the supplement's paying the 20%. That's it. So you're really buying this Medigap policy just to pay your bills. Okay. So that's kind of how simple it can be. You have to add a Part D plan because it doesn't come with drug coverage. And if you want dental and things like that, it's going to be a la carte. Okay. The beauty of that system and that way of getting your coverage is the simplicity. And like I said, is the national network of the government, meaning Medicare. On the flip side, you have Medicare Advantage. Now, this is from the Medicare New Handbook. So I want it to be really clear here. Medicare Advantage, and it says right in these words, is an all-in-one alternative to original Medicare. It's an alternative. So that's a key word there. You are not in original Medicare any longer. So when you go to a system, and this is the Kaisers, this is the United Healthcares, this is the Aetnas, these are the Medicare Advantage plans that all those carriers have. They offer this alternative to original Medicare. They bundle all the pieces of original Medicare, which is A and B. They usually add Part D into the equation. They often will throw in vision, hearing, dental, things like that, some perks that you can't get with original Medicare, and they lump it all together. And then they create a system of managed care. Okay. So when you have that managed care system, you have to go to certain providers. You have to stay in network if you want the best pricing. You may deal with the carrier for prior authorization, things like that. You might need a referral. You might not need a referral. There's a lot of things like that. Typically, they're going to have a max out of pocket. I'm going to walk you through kind of an example right here. This makes it a little bit clearer to people. I just want you to understand too, this is super, super important, that whatever path you pick, you are still going to pay your Part B premium to the government. So whatever you pick doesn't matter. You're still paying at least that $148.50 to the government. The only people in the land that are not paying their Part B premium to the government are having it paid by Medicaid. So when you hear Joe Namath on TV and you hear people talking about they absolutely pay nothing at all for their Medicare, they could be Medicaid and it's being paid for them. Okay. So don't believe everything is free, because it's not. So here's just an example. Like I said, this is a Michigan pricing. This is Medigap in the middle. So the middle is the Medigap plan, and this is Plan G. Plan G right now is the Cadillac of plans for a new 65-year-old. So in this case, this person pays $115 a month. They pay that every single month to the insurance company. They have a $203 deductible, which is the Medicare Part B deductible for this year. Okay. Whenever they go to the doctor, or if they're hospitalized, or if they have chemo, radiation, if they go to skilled nursing, if they have physical therapy, all those things are free. 0, they're free. Okay. Note that you don't get dental. There's no dental coverage here. There's no vision coverage. And you do have to add that drug plan separately. Okay. So Medicare Advantage, totally different. Medicare Advantage is that managed care program. 0. Lots and lots of zero premium plans in the entire country, thousands and thousands of them. Okay. This one has a max out of pocket of $5,000. Okay. Just throwing examples out there. There's a hospitalization copay per day. Okay. There's a chemo radiation co-insurance. There's skilled nursing every day. There's physical therapy charges. You do get a little dental thrown in, a couple, exams, cleanings, things like that. You get $100 eyewear allowance. Premium to add a drug plan is zero in this case. Okay. That does not mean your drugs are free. A lot of people misread that. They think their drugs are free. They think if they buy a Part D, their drugs could cost $1,500 and they think it's free with Medicare Advantage, and it's not. Okay. So you got to be really careful and understand exactly how all of the workings of the Medicare Advantage plan are. So when we're talking about this kind of stuff, this is when I had a woman today on the phone who, very healthy and just kind of him and hawing because Medicare Advantage is extremely appealing to people that are healthy. Why would it not be, right? You take no medications, zero. I go to the doctor once a year for a physical. I want my cleanings. Great. That's how most people think going into this. Here's where you got to be careful. And I always call it kind of the gotcha moment of Medicare. So if that person is not explained this part of Medigap rules, then they could be hurt by this. And this is what the industry I think is really poor with. It's just, there's so much advertising that you can just change your plan whenever you want every fall. Don't worry about it. Here's what happens. So Mrs. Healthy person signs up for her Medicare Advantage plan and everything is great for 4 years. Then they come back, they hear a webinar, they hear something, they hear their friend has something else. They come and they hear that, my friend has Medigap and I want that now, but I was just diagnosed with ABC. Okay. Well, ABC is enough for that person now to be disqualified for coverage because remember, pre-existing conditions come into play. So that is the one thing I will say that most people just don't understand. So when we're talking to somebody on the phone, and I had this happen yesterday, a person that she even told me, she said, I was leaning towards Medicare Advantage. However, I got a diagnosis of cancer. She is a person that she and I just said, absolutely, you're getting a Medigap contract because she will go and she knows she's having chemo and radiation. She absolutely knows what she has to go through for treatment. So it's super important that she knows how to do this. And that's where that is honestly the value of an agent at many times, because if you're doing this alone online and you can do all this, you can sign up for any of these plans online or contact the carriers directly. But if someone doesn't explain that to you, you might be making a big decision, a big mistake. Okay. And that's one you can't undo. So again, if 4 years later, this person comes out after Medicare Advantage and says, well, now I want Medigap, they can be denied. So the media with, hey, you just change your plans every year, you got to be careful because it's not an open enrollment situation. And everybody calls the fall thing the open enrollment. And it's not. It's the annual election time where you can make a few changes to different types of plans. Okay. So be careful here. So if you're heading into Medicare and you got pre-existing conditions, you just got to be super careful. So we always try and get you all to think of yourself as a 75-year-old or an 85-year-old version of you, which may not be fun, but it's just part of everything we do. Okay. So here's some positives about Medicap. Medicap is great for control in terms of you can get to go to your own doctor. You can go to MD Anderson if you got ill enough and you wanted to go there, where Medicare Advantage is not accepted by MD Anderson. Okay. So you have control. You have budgeting. If you're sick, like the woman with chemo coming up, she knows she's at $120 a month. That's it. It's great. Snowbirds. We get tons of snowbirds because we're in Michigan. So Florida, Michigan, Arizona, all over the place, but it works everywhere they go. So if they're in Naples or Michigan, they can go back and forth with doctors. Doesn't matter. You got to be okay with higher premiums. So again, there is no trick to this stuff. You are paying a higher premium to have more coverage. Okay. And I kind of joke sometimes on these webinars that, listen, I know what you all want. Every single person out there wants a Medigap contract, but they want it to cost zero, like Medicare Advantage, and they want it to come with 2 cleanings a year. I totally get that. I'm just here to tell you it's not going to happen. Okay. Medicare Advantage, some good things. There's some positives, definitely positives about it. Affordability. Some people just can't afford, right? So affordability, there's nothing better than zero. Okay. You got to save enough money to have that max out of pocket covered. So be careful with that. But also under 65 on disability, those people are penalized when they want to buy a Medigap contract. It costs $500 and $600. So they can't afford that. And it's kind of silly to afford that actually. So we give them Medicare Advantage plans. They worked great there. Veterans, I'll show you the next slide, but veterans are a great fit for Medicare Advantage plans. And then, you know what? There are people that are 80 years old that are okay with networks. They're not traveling anymore. They're fine with their 3 doctors locally. It can work okay. All right. So there are those people out there. Now, veterans, like I said, just looping back to these folks, They don't have to get Part B in Medicare. They're not required to do so by the government, but they should. Okay. If they want it later, 3 years down the road, they will get a late enrollment penalty. That's why of all veterans, we just tell them, go get Part B right away, just because then you're not 100% reliant on the VA. Some people love the VA, some people hate the VA, but always have a second option. Okay. If you have a Medicare Advantage plan outside of the VA, you can go for a second opinion. You can, get some of the perks. They have some even that are giving back, they pay back part of their Part B premium. So veterans are a fantastic group for that. Now we're going to shift over to medications. So with medications, this is the donut hole. I'm not really going to talk about it too much because it would take 10 minutes to explain it. But if you know somebody or yourself is dealing with the donut hole and complaining about the donut hole with medications, it just means they're paying a lot of money for their expensive medications. There are some really, really expensive medications out there. A woman today, we ran a drug plan. It was 16 grand a year is her cost, okay, out of her pocket. So not many people can actually retire on 75 grand a year paying $15,000 or $16,000 for medications. It's absurd. I have a lot of opinions about that. It's just horrible. And we see it all the time. But this just means that you could be paying high costs of medications. If you take 2 tier 1 medications, if you take a atorvastatin and lisinopril, don't blink an eye and worry about the donut hole. So many people get worried about this for absolutely no reason. Okay. It's only going to affect you if you have really high priced medications. But here's some things that can affect you, even for people that don't take medications. So remember when I talked earlier about the woman who called Social Security and they didn't tell her she needed a drug plan? Well, she didn't take medications. She did not know that if she did not get a drug plan when she was first able to do so she was going to get a penalty for not enrolling on time. So what happens is people at 65, they maybe call an insurance company directly and they get their Medicab contract, right? And then the person on the phone says, well, what about a drug plan? And the person says, well, I don't need that. I don't take any medications. The person on the phone, the salesperson will typically just say, okay, you're all set. Goodbye. They don't tell them that if you don't do this right now, you're going to get a penalty for late enrollment. And we give everybody just a cheap drug plan. It's not an option. So if it, I don't think we have one person on the books that didn't get one. We'll make them sign 3 or 4 documents because you're going to get penalized and you're going to come back to us at age 70, say, I need a drug plan. And now you're going to get a penalty for $34 a month. And that penalty stays with you for the rest of your life. Okay. So it's not like a parking ticket. It goes on and on and on and on. So it's not worth it. I know it doesn't make sense to you, but just get a drug plan. Okay. The other bad part about not getting that drug plan is, let's say you need it right now and it's your window to get that and you just bypass that. And then in May, you get put on Eliquis. Now, if anyone knows Eliquis, it's common. It's a very common drug. It retails at $500 a month. So if you get put on Eliquis in May or June next year, you can't go buy a drug plan in May or June of next year. You have to wait until next year's open, season in the fall to go get that drug plan. And then it will start January 1st. So, conceivably you can go 6, 7, 8 months paying $500 retail or a $50 copay. So you'd have to pick. So it's just silly not to get a Part D plan. Okay. And everybody that has Medicare right now, if you have a Part D plan, make sure you're checking your plans. Go to your agent, find out how to run your drug plans yourself online. Okay. We work with only our Medicab clients to change their drug plans because we have to run thousands of these in a year. So you need to check those though, because it can make a huge difference. There's some people that go from $5,000 a year down to $1,200. So don't throw the money away. Don't give it to the drug companies and the pharmacies and things like that. So this is the annual election time. What we're doing coming up right around the corner, it's getting really frenzied and busy right now, October 15th and December 7th. This is a time when people can change Medicare Advantage plans. If you have a Kaiser plan and you don't like it and you want to go to United Healthcare, you can change those things, if you vice versa. Okay. If you don't like your WellCare Part D plan, you can change and go to SilverScript. So any of those plans you can interchange. The new plans will start January 1st. You can also, in that window, leave Medicare Advantage if you decide that you want a Medigap plan. Maybe you didn't know about Medigap or knew how it worked or that kind of stuff. So we do get that in the fall too, where people say, well, I want out of the Medicare Advantage plan. We apply them for the Medigap contract. And if they get approved, they will start that January 1st, and then we'll write a drug plan to go with that. During January, February, March is another window. It's a longer window where we can take people out of Medicare Advantage and put them back to original Medicare with a supplement if they medically qualify. Medigap contracts, we can move those any time of the year. Okay. So if you have an old plan F and you want to get into a new plan G or a plan N, something like that, I would just hold off till February or March when the chaos ends, because right now everybody's super busy and the carriers are really busy and backed up. So it's just going to stress you out having to wait. Okay. So just realize those are any time of the year. I get this question all the time. When do you start talking about Medicare? Do it at 64 and a half. Okay. It sounds really basic, but it is. You can avoid mistakes when you do it early. I had one not too long ago where he signed up for Medicare A and B. He called me on the phone and he was doing the HSA. And I said, well, you don't, and he was going to work for 3 more years. So then he unwound everything he did. And then he called me 4 weeks after that. And he says, oh, now I'm going to retire and need Medicare. So I'm like, he was bouncing all over the place. But the thing with him is he wouldn't have made the first mistake and got it if I had to tell him to unwind what he did because he did the wrong thing in the first place. Had he called for 10 minutes, he wouldn't have made that mistake. Okay. You can save yourself so much aggravation. Now, I do know too, that you're afraid to call agents, and I don't blame you because it's not a pretty industry much of the time, but find somebody you can trust. And, everyone's got a referral out there. I have even referrals. I'm in Michigan, but I've got referrals to people in California that are fabulous. Okay. That I'm very comfortable saying that you can work with. We can't help everybody in every situation either. So we've got friends across the industry, but just find somebody that can help you and answer basic questions. Again, I'm happy to answer emails all the time, but don't make the mistakes. It's very painful, stressful, problematic to try and unwind a lot of these mistakes. Here's how you can avoid some mistakes too. Just go to our YouTube channel. Honestly, you can, in the comfort of your own home, you can sit there, you can have a cocktail and watch my son on YouTube. So this is my oldest. This is Cameron. He does our YouTube channel. Every situation's there. It's signing up for Medicare at age 65. How do you do that? What does it cost? Medicare and the shingles vaccination. I just got that question the other day. Annual election period. Everything is on here. So everything. So a lot of people will call us and say, hey, I just saw the video and I know what I want. I just have these 10 questions. Perfect. Okay. Perfect. Podcasting. We just released yesterday or the day before, it was a new episode, 30 minutes about the annual election period. So this is really important too. We did a whole segment on what to do, what not to do, what you should pay attention to, what you can't do, what you can do. So some things I talked about tonight, this is the full 30-minute section. Go listen, share that with your friends and stuff. But we're going to bring 30 minutes a month about things like an IRMA topic. We're going to talk about everything we could think of. We came up with a list of like 82 things already. So we've got shows to come for a long, long time. Our website just has a bunch of content. We're constantly trying to beef that up. This is how people connect with us, phone calls, emails, et cetera, et cetera. Q&A. I know I talked for a long time, so hopefully I cut it enough, about 45 minutes. I know there's a ton there, and I see, I know I just that fire hose thing, and it just keeps going and going and going. Yeah. And I didn't look, but I see Q&A has a 67 bubble, so that's kind of scary.
67, right. A lot of questions. A lot of them you already covered, I know, but some of this will be reviewed. So here's one question. When will the drug plan list their approved drugs for 2021?
2022, October 1st.
I think she meant. Okay.
Yeah. She means the new plan year. So all of that's going to come out on October 1st. And that's why when people are calling us like crazy now, it's like, we can't answer a question till October 1st. So right now, your annual notice of change should have come, and October 1st, you'll see new pricing on the Medicare.gov website.
Okay. What is the best option to take if I'm still covered by my spouse's insurance?
Just stay with your spouse's insurance. You don't need to do anything. Now, in that case, as long as it's a large employer, over 20 employees, and as long as you're not contributing to a health savings account, I would say, not knowing anything more than that, I would say just enroll in Part A as an Apple of Medicare. It's free, gives you a little extra coverage, but do not get Part B. Do not get Part B until your spouse no longer has that insurance and you're not on it.
Okay. From Carmen, kind of the same question. If I am 66 and working, do I still need to sign up for Medicare, even if I have insurance through my company?
No, as long as you have a 20 and over employer. Again, you do not have to. No one's going to make you all leave your employer coverage or make you be double covered. So no, you don't have to.
Okay. This is from Anonymous, but this is a good question. I'm still working. Turned 65 June 16th. Do I have to sign up for Part A? No. Will I be penalized if I don't after September? 3 months before, 3 months after?
No. So unless I'm missing something, you're working, you're on employer coverage. Again, if it's over 20 employees, always look at the 20 or over. If you don't want to sign up for Part A, you don't have to. If you don't want to sign up for Part B, you don't have to either. And if you're on the
Okay.
group insurance, I would do Part A as long as you're not contributing to the HSA, but there's no penalty. The last part of that question was, is there a penalty for late enrollment? No, there's not. You will show proof of credible coverage later and get your Part B without a penalty.
Okay. There's a lot of Kaiser questions in here, so let's cover this one from Gina. I'm 37 years old and on Medicare because I'm on Social Security disability insurance. I've recently had to switch from Kaiser's Medicare plan called Senior Advantage to Anthem Medicare plan, Blue Access. Is there any information you can share with me?
I really can't, because number one, Kaiser doesn't allow agents to sell their products. So we're not privy to like a lot of their information. And I don't know why you would have to change unless your doctor didn't take the Kaiser, unless you went to outside of Kaiser, things like that. So I really can't get into the nitty gritty on that one.
Okay. I'm thinking of retiring next year at age 62. While I won't be ready for Medicare as yet, are there some things I can do proactively?
Yeah, start learning. Well, you have to first figure out where your coverage is going to be from 62 to 65. So that's either going to be Cobra or Marketplace or something. So find a good broker to do that with you, and then start learning on YouTube and just tune into the webinars and stuff. And then understand your timing is going to be your most critical piece. So get your timing set up. It sounds to me like unless you go back to work, you're going to be one of those people that you need Medicare at 65 years old. And then just take all these couple of years and figure out if you want Medigap or Medicare Advantage.
Okay. This is a review question. How far in advance of me turning 65 do I apply for Medicare? Does it kick in on my birthday or January 1 of that year?
Okay, so remember, you can't even apply till 3 months before your birth month. And every single person that, if your birthday is January 18th, for example, it's going to kick in January 1st as your first day of Medicare. However, let's say your birthday is January 1st. In that case, it's actually going to start December 1st, a month early. Okay. But most people are on the first of the month and they're surprised that it's not on their birthday. They think it starts on their birthday, but it starts the first of the month. And you can apply the up to the third month before that birth month.
Okay. If my husband is on Medicare, can I contribute to HSA as I am still 60?
Yes, you certainly can. So for you, you can contribute. Just make sure the money goes into your own HSA account, and then you can actually contribute the family amount plus your $1,000 catch-up provision if you'd like to. He cannot put any money in, so you can. But here's the thing too. He can actually use, if you have $20,000 in that account and he needs to use some of that for dental, he can do that. So the funds can be spent on him, but only you can contribute to the account.
Okay. Here's another question kind of along those lines. Please clarify. If I collect Social Security at my retirement age and continue to work, do I need to take Medicare? I work for a large firm and contribute to an HSA.
So unfortunately, yes. So if you're collecting Social Security early and you're working, you're going to get enrolled into Medicare A and B both. But since you're working, what you're going to do is you're going to defer and give back, basically tell them, I don't want Part B. I just want you. Unfortunately, you have to take Part A though. So therefore you're going to say no, thank you to the medical coverage Part B, but you're stuck with Part A, which does mean you can no longer put money into your HSA.
Okay. I'm going to just take a few more here. If I turn 65 in January 2022, am I on my husband's insurance? He is 53. Do I have to sign up for A and B?
No. Again, unless you're collecting Social Security, you will be enrolled in Part A, but since you're on his group insurance and it's over 20 employees, I'm assuming, then you do not have to go to Medicare Part B as in boy at all, or you don't have to do anything if you don't want to, as long as you're not collecting Social Security.
Okay. This is a very nice comment from somebody. I work as a Medi-Cal biller, and it is amazing how many people don't understand that a Medicare Advantage plan is not Medicare.
Yay! Thank you. Yay. Because it's not. It's an alternative to, and people don't understand that. So you do not go and yell at Medicare when something bad goes wrong. You go yell at a carrier.
Yes, yes. Well, let's do one more.
Okay.
I was told you have 8 months to avoid penalty on Part B when you turn 65. And company covers medical. But when leaving, you have 8 months to apply for Part B.
Mm-hmm.
Are each state different where this is concerned?
No, so that's actually a federal, that's a Medicare rule. That's not a state rule. Then the states are different with Medigap plans here and there, but and different birthday rules, et cetera, et cetera. But no, that's just a Medicare rule. And that's why, again, you have 8 months after you leave your employer coverage to go get your Medicare. Now, how many people really do that? They don't. They panic when their coverage is ending. So they're talking to somebody about, hey, I need my coverage, blah, blah, blah. So again, that's where that penalty just doesn't come into play very often. But yeah, it's true. You have 8 months after leaving the employer coverage. The 8 months has nothing to do with your birthday. So when you wrote in there 65, 8 months has nothing to do with turning 65. It's only when you're leaving employer coverage. You have 8 months to go get your Medicare set up without getting penalized.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it doesn't come into play very much.
Okay.
And you can see from those questions, Carolyn, you can see how many people would, well, how many would have goofed up, just especially when they're on employer coverage, how many think they have to go sign up for Medicare? Everybody thinks that. And it's just like that. If we could just save one big headache, save yourself the money, the aggravation, messing up your open enrollment later, do not get Medicare Part B unless you know you need to get it. That's huge.
Well, I've been in the business for many, many, many years, and I've seen many Medicare presentations. And every time I learn something, I've seen your presentation at least 3 times now, Joanne. You are just top notch in your information, your expertise. So we appreciate everything, the time that you've spent. And let's go to the next slide and tell people how to get a hold of you. We are so sorry we did not get a chance to answer all 110 questions that you had, 112 now. So if you want to get your questions answered personally, here is Joanne's email address. It's info@gmedicareteam.com. She also has a fabulous website that will answer most of your questions. So go on our website at www.gmedicareteam.com and take a look around and see if you can learn more from that. But of course, you can email her as well.
Right.
Now, in the chat, I believe we have your contact information listed.
Okay.
So if you are interested in, if anyone on this webinar is interested in Medicare, please contact Joanne. Patelco is bringing this service to you, and we really do want to partner with Joanne and help our members and our non-members. If you want investment advice, we have another group of people right here at Patelco Financial Solutions. We have financial advisors that can help you with retirement planning, retirement income, 401k and IRA rollovers, financial planning, life insurance, long-term care insurance. I saw some questions in there about long-term care insurance, and Joanne covered that a little bit. Remember, Medicare does not cover long-term care insurance. We can help you with wealth transfer and tax-free income. We're actually having a webinar next month, October 27th at 5:30 on tax-free investing, if you want to join us then. But if you are interested in talking to a financial advisor about any of these pieces, please send me an email at cwilson@patelco.org. My phone number is also there. Please leave me a voicemail, and it would be great if you told me what area of Patelco, if you do your business at a particular branch, and then that we can get you to the advisor that is closest to you that would make most sense. And one more slide, please. If you can flip it. Okay. So we are very happy to bring to you Virtual Branch. We have a virtual branch team on standby right now that will provide a free face-to-face consultation. Now, up there is a picture of Delmy. She is our virtual branch manager. Her and her team are here ready to answer your questions, and they're from Patelco Credit Union. They can help you with strategies to reduce debt, maybe even to see if you're in the right type of account right now, explore loan opportunities, and just answer any questions about your Patelco Credit Union accounts. So just go ahead and click on that Zoom. You will leave this particular webinar and go straight there, but Delmi and her team are ready to answer your questions. So with that, we're going to switch over to the last slide, and we're going to say good night. But before that, I want to thank everyone for being on this webinar. This information is so critical to all of us and your financial well-being. And I hope you understand that at Patelco, we have your financial wellness at the heart of everything we do. So good night and take care.